Let's start with my history. So, my name, that's a good start. Yeah. My name is Yaakov Ram Shepherd. Yaakov, and I came to Yerushalayim when I was about 22 or something like that, and I got to Diaspora Yeshiva, and I was learning there for a couple of years, and then I got married and I started to teach there, and I was teaching there Gemara and then Halacha, and while I was doing that, I started to learn in Betel Yeshiva here in the Rova, and I was part of the Kollel of Rav Israel Avichai for about 10 years, and then Baruch Hashem gave me the zchut to be able to give it over, so I started to teach. And then Rav Goldstein Zatzal, after he gave me smicha, he told me to open a yeshiva for teaching Kabbalah in Har Zion. And thank you very much. And I did that with the help of Hashem. And still, there's a bit midrash there. I don't get there so much because I moved out. I was living in Kever David for like 20 years. So as long as I was living there, it was very easy for me to teach there. Right now, I'm living in Ramat Shlomo. So I'm not like coming on a constant base, but Reb Shalom asked me to come. So Baruch Hashem, I'm here. אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו.
How old are you now?
How old am I? 44? 44. A baby, yeah. Baruch Hashem. Yeah, many people were like asking me, like before I was 40, like how can I learn and teach Kabbalah? I'm not 40 years old yet, and I was looking for a source of like where does it say not to learn Kabbalah before 40, and it's not. There's no really a clear source for that. There is some thing about it in the Shach, in the Halachot Talmud Torah, but it's also there. It doesn't really say it like as people understand. So I don't know like how it came into the world, this idea that you have to be 40. Lamaise, no one of the Mekubalim that will learn their books started to learn Kabbalah when he was 40. There's no one Mekubal that started when he was 40 years old.
Your Rizal passed away at 36.
Right, so it's not whatever. I think that like that's part of there is some kind of let's say post-traumatic syndrome that the Ashkenaz world got from Shabtai Tzvi Machshmo. That as far as I understand, they had some kind of your Vad Arbat Aratzot. I don't know how they say it in English.
The Committee of Four Nations.
Yeah.
Four lands.
So there was a committee of the Ashkenaz rabbis that got together to do some takanot, and I think that like one of the subjects that they were discussing is how to make a fence that something like Shabtai Tzvi will not happen again, Chas v'Shalom. So within that they like recommended very highly for people not to get to learn Kabbalah unless they are very, very qualified. So I think that's probably like some of that. Anyhow, let's leave that.
Before you were 22, what was you came to be Shiva at 22? But what happened before 22?
Before 22, well, when I finished like high school, my father left Israel. He went to Australia, and I went there for a little while, and that was like, I was in that process of Bezrat Hashem coming closer to Hashem and learning Torah. And actually, since then, I was like, it was already clear to me that like my direction is Kabbalah, even though I didn't really know what it is, but somehow my heart felt that's the main thing for me to focus on. So it was just a question of like when and how and where and with who, but it was clear to me that that's what I need to focus on, and that's what I need. So Baruch Hashem, yeah, I can tell like many stories about myself, but I came to teach Kabbalah, so Bezrat Hashem, the stories maybe we'll leave for another time.
Did you ever meet Rav Kaduri?
I didn't meet Rav Kaduri. I met few of his students. Yeah.
So I met Rav Kaduri in 1990 in Los Angeles.
Right.
Yeah, there's a story attached to it. He was wearing this as a gartel.
Oh my gosh.
And he took it off and he gave it to me.
Wow.
And I have it. I had it all these years.
Wow.
And women come to my house who have trouble conceiving, and they wear it. And many of them have had children. I've only been in Israel for 7 months, in Jerusalem for 6. And 5 women have come to my house. 2 of them have already notified me that it worked for them.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
The power of the tzaddik. Wow.
Baruch Hashem. Yeah. Rav Kaduri was definitely one of the great Kabbalists of the previous generation.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe let's start with a general question that I will let you answer first before me. What is Kabbalah? Somebody have an answer? How do you define what is Kabbalah?
The mystical.
Mystical.
It's the receiving.
Receiving.
Receiving of the part of the oral Torah.
Very good.
Beyond my comprehension.
That was actually one of my first questions.
Okay, so Baruch Hashem. Anyone else? No?
We should ask Madonna.
Okay, so I will give you my definition, and obviously it's not a definition that wraps like the whole thing, but it gives a certain understanding of like what is it that is yeah. So I define Kabbalah first of all as the learning of the structure of the spiritual worlds. Okay, in other words, like there is physics that we learn about the laws of the physical world. In a certain way, Kabbalah is teaching us the laws of the spiritual worlds. Okay, that's like a certain understanding that I think that it helps to have that in mind. So if we compare between the physical and the spiritual, so like in physics, after you learn the laws, so you can use it to create all kinds of things and to develop all kinds of things and to do all kinds of things. So also in Kabbalah, after you have the knowledge, you have the understanding of what is it about, how does it work. So it gives you a certain ability of obviously like in a like quite a high level, but in the long run, it gives you a certain ability to connect to those worlds. We all connected anyhow, but to know how you are connected to those spiritual realms, and to do things there, to act, to be part of that, to be an active part of those spiritual realms. And that leads me to the second question that I want to present to you, of why would one want to learn Kabbalah? What can be a reason for a person to learn Kabbalah? So I'm asking you, why you want me to come here to teach you?
To know what your role is in life and to do tikkunim on the things that you're given to fix up, I guess.
Okay, that's good.
Well, now it's just power. We don't know about Kabbalah, so teach it. We want to know more so we can do more
Okay.
and understand more.
Somebody else?
And Kabbalah is another definite road for connecting with Hashem. And
Okay, very good.
it's a road that a lot of people haven't learned how to walk down. So being given the opportunity to do that is beneficial.
Right. Shalom Aleichem. Right, right. Very good. Okay, good. So I would say the first thing is that like we have to accept that Kabbalah is part of the Torah. So like any Yid have an obligation to try to learn all the Torah as much as we can. So Kabbalah is part of the Torah and we have the obligation to try to learn it as much as we can, like any other part. So there's like obviously not everybody can learn everything, but anyone that have the opportunity, the possibility to try as much as your hand reach. So it's part of the obligation of learning Torah. That's first thing. Second thing is, like you said, to get to our tikkun. So we need to understand how does it work and to how should we work on getting to our tikkun and to connect to Hashem. That's the main thing that I'm always emphasizing in my classes. That the main thing that I'm teaching is how to connect to Hashem. And in the same breath, I will say that for many people in the world, not you guys, other people, they have ideas of learning Kabbalah to be able to have all kinds of supernatural powers and to know what's going to happen and to control other people's thoughts and I don't know, all kinds of different things like that. Which is obviously a wrong reasons to come to learn Kabbalah. So the reason it's important for me to emphasize it is that like there's a certain principle that we need to aim to the right direction to begin with, and then as we go along. So with the help of Hashem, like to every time to keep on fixing to re-establish our target direction and to go to keep on going in that direction. So there is again, I'm not saying it so much for you, but I don't know, whoever might hear it in the future. There's a lot of people that they have like Yetzer Hara when they start to hear those things of like how to use those secrets of the creation to their own benefit and so on, and that's usually the way to get in trouble, to put it in simple words. So yeah, that's important for me to say that that's not what I'm teaching. I'm not into like all kinds of practical Kabbalah and things like that. There's like, it's. I'm not saying it's not part of learning Kabbalah, but that's not what I'm dealing with. So, just to be clear on that. Okay.
Yeah, is it not true that Kabbalah really is using the finer, like almost looking with a microscope at what is normally seen in normal size? That the Kabbalah is looking at the details that make up the parts of the whole.
Again, say it again.
So, well, it was like an detailed view of the world. In other words, you can see this, and suddenly I want to start dealing with working with this and forming this and creating this and changing this and using it. I have to know more intricate rules than just the big picture. I have to look at all the details.
It's also
true. Really a detailed look at the letters and the parts that make up. The letter makes up the letters make up the word. With Kabbalah, it's being able to look at those parts to determine what you're working with that you see having a big picture.
Yeah. It's also true. There's many parts. There's many parts, and it's actually like a question within the learning. Like if you go like if you start from the big picture, and then you kind of zoom in to see like more and more details inside, or to start with like the small details, and then to zoom out until you get like the big picture. That's like two kind of approaches within learning or teaching Kabbalah. Like I said, my big inheritance of Kabbalah is from Betel Yeshiva, the inheritance of the Rashash. And the Rashash was very, very focused on the details, like you said. And like, basically the approach is like, you do the tikkun in the smallest detail, and then from there, it can grow until you get to the large scale. That's basically in a certain way, the approach of the Rashash. The Ramchal, however, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, I'm sure that you heard that he was a great Kabbalist besides of Mesilat Yesharim. So his approach is the opposite. Like he's saying all the time, I'm giving you the laws, the big scale, and from there you can take it on and you can learn by yourself like the details after you get like the big picture. So even though when I was learning, I learned in Betel Yeshiva with emphasizing the details, but I saw that for most of the people it doesn't work for them. For the vast majority of the people, they get lost with the details when they don't have the big picture. So I'm starting from the big picture and then like going back and forth between the two, zooming in and zooming out. So let's get to it and get some idea about this big picture, okay? By the way, if you want, like we can like decide on a certain book and like use a book. Like I was not sure about like how we're gonna do it, but if you want, so we can discuss like learning with a certain book, or maybe the Ramchal or like the Arizal, depends. Like, yeah. I want to say something before we really start again. The wisdom of the Kabbalah is huge. It's like there was someone like years ago when I started to get like serious about learning Kabbalah in the Asper Yeshiva. So one of the Avrechim there, he told me, Rabbi Yaakov, I want you to teach me Kabbalah. 5 minutes a day, I'll come to you and you'll teach me the Kabbalah. And I told him, very well, but you have to teach me Dayanus in 5 minutes a day. Like like anyone that is dealing with Pshat understands that like to be a Dayan, it doesn't work with 5 minutes a day. So to say that like learning Kabbalah is like less than that, it's not less than that, it's more than that. Like there's much more. Like even text to learn, but forget about text to learn, just to digest it and to process it and to relate to that, it's usually it's a bigger challenge for most of the people. So like obviously like if I come here like an hour a week, so you can get a taste of learning Kabbalah, but it's not like enough to really get involved. Yeah, like if somebody wants to really like get really involved in learning Kabbalah, so it's something about like it's it have to be like serious, like few hours a day or a couple of hours a day or something like that. It's like to get like really involved. After a person is already like involved, so it doesn't have to be so much. But to begin with, that's usually what it takes. But anyhow, to get a taste of it is also important. Even if we won't have the time to learn so much, but something is definitely much better than nothing. So we try to get the most of what we have. Yeah.
I do have one question. If this was a Chumash class, then there'd be Ksuvos and Nevi'im and the 5 books of Moshe. And so, I know that would probably be some way one would start with some Rashi commentary, etc. I don't know what the Kabbalah is. I mean, is it broken down by parshiot, or is it broken down through an order of something that was oral or?
Okay. Yeah, good point. I thought to speak about it as well, and I didn't get to that. So I'll give a brief history of Kabbalah. Okay, with some important points, important books within the learning of the Kabbalah. So the the most famous probably book of Kabbalah is the Zohar. Okay, the Zohar that was written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay, not like they say in the universities that it was by some guy in the Middle Ages in Spain. According to the Jewish tradition, it was written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and that's in the Tkufa, the time of the Tanaim, right? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is a part of the Mishnah. So for me, many times I compare like between the Pshat and the Kabbalah. So like in the Pshat we have the Mishnayos. So also in the Kabbalah we have the Zohar. In a certain way, you can see the connection between them. But really it doesn't start with the Zohar. It starts even before that. There's a book of Sefer Yetzirah that according to our tradition it was written by Avraham Avinu. Sefer Yetzirah. There's a tremendous amount of commentaries from all of the generations on Sefer Yetzirah. There's also one of Rav Aryeh Kaplan in English. I don't know if you got to see it. So that's one of the earliest books of Kabbalah. Probably there is a book that they called the Raziel HaMalach, that they say that it was given to Adam HaRishon. I'm not sure exactly if what we have that they call Raziel HaMalach is the original book of Raziel HaMalach that was given to Adam HaRishon, but there was, it's mentioned in the Zohar that there's book of Sifra de Adam Kadma, the book of Adam HaRishon. So they say it's Raziel HaMalach. But anyhow, the Zohar is kind of organized by Parashat Shavua. You have like Zohar on every parasha, and then afterwards you have also Tikkunei Zohar, which is like a book for itself that is like all on the word of Bereshit. There's like 70, let's say, articles on the word Bereshit. That's Tikkunei Zohar. And for me, the main focus of my learning and teaching is the writings of the Arizal. The Arizal. And the Arizal is it's very interesting. Like again, when you compare between the Pshat and the Kabbalah, so also in the Pshat you have like the Shulchan Aruch, right? And that Rabbi Yosef Karo was living in the same generation as the Arizal. So before the Shulchan Aruch we have like Rishonim, and since the Shulchan Aruch afterwards we have Achronim. Right? So the Shulchan Aruch is like the point of like the breaking point between the Rishonim and the Achronim. So in the same way, but different, the Arizal is like a very, very important point in the teaching and writing of the Kabbalah, that we have like the Kabbalat HaRishonim before the Arizal until the Ramak. The Ramak that was living in the same generation as the Arizal, he was the last one of the Kabbalat HaRishonim. And then from the Arizal onwards, so it like the whole world of learning Kabbalah have got different, and that's like basically today no one that doesn't relate to the Kabbalah of the Arizal it's not you cannot learn Kabbalah without getting to the Arizal at some point. Shalom Aleichem.
Is that available in translation in English?
There is some translations, but I don't know about something that is really. There's nothing that I can recommend. There is a translation of Rav Aryeh Kaplan on one book of it's not really the Arizal, it's Rabbi Chaim Vital, the student of the Arizal, that is Otzrot Chaim. Most of the Ashkenazim that they start to learn Kabbalah, they use the Sefer Otzrot Chaim, which is like a shorter version of the Etz Chaim. My main tradition is the Etz Chaim. That's the book that I focused on in my learning in Betel Yeshiva. So Otzrot Chaim, Otzros they call it in short, is the short version of it, and many Mekubalim use that as kind of introductions to Kabbalah.
Is that by Rabbi Kaplan?
So I think that Rav Kaplan did a translation of that. I think that was like one of the last books that he worked on before he passed away.
When you gravitated towards Kabbalah, was it because you got it pretty quickly? Was there some, what do you call it, shaykhus or something? There was, you had a connection. It's like you were in. I'm just curious how.
For me, it was clear that that's my direction.
That's
Before I
what you
came to Yerushalayim, I was already involved with like the Zohar, with the Sulam, the Rav Ashlag Perush, and I was like, I was actually teaching it. I didn't really understand it. Like
Sulam,
yeah.
That's Chassidut though, right?
The Sulam is more Chassidut. Yeah, the like Ashlag is a Chassidut that is a lot about like learning Zohar, but it's mostly Chassidut.
It's just that, over the years, David said earlier, and I've known the Rosh Yeshiva for 30 years. Over the 30 years, every few years or so, it's like, let's learn Sefer Yetzirah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh God, what a nightmare. It's like, it's like going to a Fellini movie, you know who Fellini is?
With no subtitles.
Some things I get the reference.
No, Fellini. Anyway, it's like going to a movie.
I understand the idea. I don't know who is Fellini, but I understand the
After
idea.
the first 5 minutes, you're sitting in the theater. First 5 minutes, you go, I don't know what the heck is going on here. And right away, you're lost.
Okay, so Baruch Hashem, Hashem gave me a present usually I can help people to take their first steps into Kabbalah, and Bezrat Hashem, I'm quite sure that you'll get. I cannot promise you that you'll become a Kabbalim from this shiur, but you'll get an idea. You'll know a little bit more of what it's about with the help of Hashem.
Who's considered the top Kabbalist at this time in the world?
Roger Maris or Mickey Mantle.
I'm not.
Ralph Kaduri was in his time by
Yeah,
day.
I don't-
So who in this time is considered?
I'm not giving scores to rabbis. I'm sure that there's many that they are good and holy and pure and great.
And you don't know them.
Anyhow,
Okay, so one give
so let's try to focus, okay, on to begin with. Let's start with the beginning stage of the creation, okay, to have something for today.
Did you say that the Zohar was based on the book of Bereshis?
The word Bereshis is the thread within Tikkunei Zohar. You have the whole Zohar is like Parshiot, so you have Zohar Bereshit, Zohar Noach, Zohar, like every parasha it has a Zohar of that parasha. It's a little bit like Midrash, like when you have like Midrash Rabbah or Midrash Tanchuma, so you have like it starts with something to do with the parasha, but it goes like a long way like off the subject as if, but it's all like minyan l'inyan b'oto inyan, like goes back to the parasha. But it gives like the secrets of the creation and all of the basically the foundations of the Kabbalah. In the writings of the Arizal, you can have like a whole long article, and then in the end he will say, and that's what it means in the Zohar, and he will give you like one line of the Zohar that is like, when most of the people wouldn't guess when they read this line of Zohar that it has so much inside, but that was the power of the Arizal, that he was able to see in the Zohar like all of those secrets. So it seems that when Rav Chaim Vital, the main student of the Arizal, came to learn with him, so they used the Zohar as the starting point. They started with the Zohar and then they took it from there. So if we focus on the writings of the Arizal, there's Etz Chaim, like I mentioned before, which is, for me, that's the main book that you can say that this is like the structure of the world, as I said in the beginning today. And then there's Shmone She'arim, the 8 gates, that is like Shar Gilgulim, about reincarnation, Shar Kavanos, about the meditations of the prayers and the weekday, Shabbat, so on. So there's a lot to learn. As much as we'll have the time and strength, so there's a lot to learn, and it's also depends on you, where you want to take it. It can be it can go into different directions. I will also say that, again, from my tradition in Betel Yeshiva, the direction of things is to learn Kabbalah to get to the Kavanos. So for me, one of the main things is to get to practice the Kavanos, which I translate to English as meditations. So the focus of what I'm teaching is to get to what you can call Kabbalistic meditation, which is basically Kavanos. That is, there's a lot to say about it, but I'll just say that one of the projects that I'm working on now is to translate to English Siddur that I did that is on Chen Ashkenaz, which is intermediate intermediate level of Kavanos for in Ashkenaz Nosach. So I was thinking of, when I was thinking about some kind of a structure, so I thought maybe I'll make few copies of a draft of what I'm working on, and I'll bring it here, and then we can go over it together, and that will give us, and then every time we get to to some kind of a concept that needs explanation, so I'll give you the background explanation outside of the text, and I think that can be something that will give you also a practical usage of it, so you can look at it along the week, those drafts. So if you want, you tell me, and I can organize. What?
Translate into our davening?
Yeah, you don't have to use it for the davening itself, but if you want, you can. It's it's a siddur, but it has in between the brachos, whatever, the words, so you have the English explanations on the kavanos. That's one of the main projects that I'm dealing with these days. So yeah, I think that can be a good thing. Anyhow, let's start with some kind of introduction to the, like I said, the big picture of the structure of the spiritual realms. Okay. So the first thing I want you to understand is that within that learning that we are starting now, we are relating to that as if it's on a timeline. Yeah, we say that was before, that was after, that's the next step. Yeah, and within our physical perception of the world, so we look on history as something that whatever was in the past was in the past, and now it's not here, it's not real. So the fact that here in this point of earth there was all kinds of nations before us, so it might be interesting to learn about it, but it doesn't really mean anything to us. It's it's not a reality for us. We learn it as something that have been and now it's not. But in Kabbalah, it's different. Even though we use those terms of before and after, but the before doesn't get nullified after. It stays. So the way I explain it is layers of the reality. You can call it dimensions. So when we say that the first thing that happened and then something else happened, so in that second step, it's another layer that is taking place, but the first is still there. Okay? That's a very important understanding. So as far as we know from the writings of the Arizal, the first scene of the reality of the existence is that Hashem's light is filling all of the existence, and there's nothing else besides of the simple light of Hashem. Or Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem that is filling the whole existence. And then something happened. What happened? Hashem wanted to create the creation. And that's a very strange thing for us to understand. How, what does it mean Hashem wanted to create the creation? Why Hashem wanted to create the creation, right? So I'm sure that you heard the answer of the Ramchal, that is really, the source of that is also in the Arizal, that Hashem wanted to give goodness. Hashem is good, and the nature of good is to give goodness, derech hatov lativ. So Hashem created the creation that He will have creation to be good to. And that's the first step of understanding, that Hashem's desire for the creation is to have subject to share His goodness with, which is us. So that's our purpose, in a short phrase. Our purpose is to experience the goodness of Hashem. How do you like that? Sounds good? I like the idea. B'ezrat Hashem. So as much as we experience goodness in our life, we are fulfilling the purpose of the creation. Okay?
Does the Chabad answer of Dir of the Tachtonim fit that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
No contradiction. Yeah. So, what was the first step to get to the creation? So that's a big concept that I will just give you a brief of it, that is called the tzimtzum, the contraction. As if Hashem pushed away certain amount of His light to create space for the creation to take place. In other words, an example and a parable for that: if we had this room full of sand and stones, so there was no place for us to be in. So for us to be in that space, we need first to empty whatever is there, right? So as if Hashem's light was filling the whole existence, so there was no room for the creation to take its place. So Hashem pushed away His light to have space for the creation. Okay, that's a certain, a very brief understanding about the tzimtzum, but I'm sure that you heard about the concept of the tzimtzum, the contraction, and there's books and books and so many articles and arguments that was about this concept of the tzimtzum. So only to get, there's a book in English that is called the Nefesh HaTzimtzum, some present rabbi of our generation. I didn't read it myself, but I heard that it's quite a nice book. Some people that I teach, they learned it and they recommend it. So if you want to, it's basically the Nefesh HaChaim. The third part of Nefesh HaChaim, Chaim Volozhin, is about the Tzimtzum. So this book in English, he took that and he worked on that as a starting point. Anyhow, so there is a space, okay? And then Hashem brought light that shined into that space. In other words, the first stage of that empty space, Halal HaPanui, is this: it's empty from the light of Hashem. There was light of Hashem there, and Hashem pushed it aside, so it got empty. So then Hashem brought back a very, very thin thread of light that came into that space in quantum measurement, just the right amount that it will allow the creation to be created and not to get nullified. What does it mean not to get nullified? When there's too much light, so everything gets nullified to light of Hashem. Yeah, and that's one of the concepts that we'll see further on. That maybe you heard about this concept also. It's called the shattering of the vessels, shviras hakelim. That is basically that there was too much light, so the vessels got broken. So the idea of the right measurement of light that comes in is very, very important. And also for us, many people, they want to experience the light of Hashem, to feel the light of Hashem. And many people are very frustrated that they don't have enough of it. They don't have so much of it. They want to have more of it. And by the way, when I say the light of Hashem, so that includes within it all of the different kinds of abundance that we can think of, spiritual, physical, whatever it is. It's all different colors and of light of Hashem in a way, you know. So many people in the world, they are very frustrated that they don't have enough of that light of Hashem, and that's something that we should understand, that Hashem measured the light that He brings into the creation or into a person exactly right, exactly according to the need, according to the capability of what we can hold and what we need for our purpose, for our tikkun, and so on. So that line of light that comes into the space, that's a big concept that is called Adam Kadmon. Some translate as the primordial man. I'm not sure if it's a good translation. Maybe we'll just leave it as Adam Kadmon. Okay, so the phrase of Adam Kadmon is very tricky. Many people, it's very hard for them to speak about like Adam. Like we know what is Adam, right? We are Adam, so like we know what we are, maybe more or less. So like what does it mean Adam Kadmon? Something that is like prior to all of the different worlds and is. So first of all, obviously, there's nothing physical in that point. Yeah, it's all like totally spiritual and abstract in the farthest extent that we can say, that we can fathom. The reason that we call it Adam Kadmon is because what we presume as Adam in the Kabbalah is translated as a structure. We have a certain structure. We are built on a certain structure. So in the same structure that we build on, that structure didn't start by us. In a certain way, we can say that it ended by us. But it started by Adam Kadmon. And in a way, you can say that every level, every dimension, every world have that structure of Adam. Until it gets to ourselves, as we know it, as much as we know it, that we are shaped according to that structure that is very, very prior in the creation, the beginning of the creation, as I said. And that is very important understanding, that Sof Maaseh b'machshava tchila, right? The result, the end result, starts with the first thought. So whatever Hashem wanted to end with, which is us, to share His goodness, as we said before, to get to that point, it started with that first step of Adam Kadmon, that is like making like a statement of that's where I'm aiming to finish with in the end. But that Adam Kadmon again is nothing to do with physical. Okay, our physical body have a connection of that spiritual structure, but the concept of Adam, the structure of Adam, is starting as something that is totally spiritual, nothing to do with physical. And even within the spiritual, there's many different levels. So we're talking about the most abstract and thin concepts of that structure. Okay? So we're using those concepts of the body parts of our body as a borrowed term to speak about those spiritual terms. Okay? So we're gonna speak, maybe not today, but we're gonna speak with the help of Hashem about the forehead of Adam Kadmon, the eyes of Adam Kadmon, the nose of Adam Kadmon, all kinds of body parts of Adam Kadmon. And for us, the default when we speak about forehead, eyes, nose, is to think about what we know, our physical body. But every time we need to remind ourselves it's not about the physical body. We are just using those terms as some kind of a starting point to get to a certain abstract concept that we don't have words to describe it. So we have to use some words. So we're using the terms of the physical world because that's what we have. Our language is describing physical. We don't have words for the spiritual. So all those terms, every time I will use them, I will remind you from time to time, but even when I don't, you have to remind yourself, it's nothing to do with physicality. It's just to give us a certain understanding. For example, the forehead is above the nose, right? So when we speak about the forehead and then we speak about the nose, so we know that the forehead is higher than the nose. But we don't need to imagine ourselves like Adam Kadmon as a physical image that is like floating in the sky. Okay, that's like Christianity. We don't want to go there. Okay, so it's very important to have our to be very clear on that, that those terms is a certain thread that we have to follow to get to the pure spiritual concept. Okay, so we starting with the physical understanding of those parts, this structure, and we use that as a jumping board to get to some spiritual understanding as much as Hashem is giving us the permission. And in that point, we have to let go of the physical attachment. Okay, and that is probably one of the biggest stumbling blocks within learning Kabbalah. That many people, they stumble upon this and they don't have the courage and the strength, they don't know how to let go their physical attachment, physical understanding of those terms.
Because it's scary.
It's also scary, and also like whoever is not used to that, so it's very hard. Like, how do you do that? Like we are so attached to our physical existence that most of the people, they don't know how to let go of their physical attachment and to get to have some kind of spiritual experience.
We're not aware of higher world. We're just a seer.
Right. So the default of the way that we're relating to those words is just physical. But like even in the pshat, you don't have to get to the Kabbalah, but in the pshat you have like those terms of Enei Hashem ema meshototot ba'aretz. The eyes of Hashem is like looking over the land. So obviously we're not talking about physical eyes, right? Yamin Hashem Romemai, Yamin Hashem Osachail, Hashem took us out of Egypt with like Yada Chazaka. So we're using all kinds of terms that are physical terms in the Pshat level of the Torah, and we know that it's not talking about physical. We know that it has some kind of a spiritual concept that the Torah is using the language that we know, the physical language, to give us a certain message. So the same thing also, and even more so, when we learn in Kabbalah, we have all kinds of terms that many times for many people it's very confusing, but what can we do? That's the terms that we have. That's the language that we have. We don't have different words to describe it. So let's I'll give you a little bit more about the structure of Adam Kadmon. Maybe we'll leave to the structure of Adam Kadmon for afterwards. I'll just say that in a certain way, Adam Kadmon is the first world. Within the levels of worlds that we speak about in the Kabbalah, so Adam Kadmon is the highest world. You can say dimension. Sometimes I translate like Olam as dimension instead of a world. I think it's better translation. So the highest dimension that we speak about in Kabbalah is Adam Kadmon. Okay? Then afterwards we have the four worlds that I assume that you met those concepts: Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, Asiyah. Maybe somebody can give me the translation, how they translate it in English. Atzilut is
Highest of the highs.
Okay, so we'll just leave it with the Hebrew terms. Atzilut is the highest, lower than Adam Kadmon. Then we have Bria, Yetzira, and Asiyah. Some people think that we are living, the physical world is the world of Asiyah. My understanding is that we are under the world of Asiyah. The world of Asiyah is still spiritual, but is the closest, within the spiritual, is the closest to us, to the physical. So in Etz Chaim, the Marchu Rabbi Chaim Vital says that the planets around us are the 7 lower sfirot of the world of Asiyah. In other words, our physical world, our physical dimension that we know is in the bottom of the Asiyah. You can say the Malchus of the Asiyah, Asiyah of the Asiyah. But the world of Asiyah is bigger than that. Is not all the physical. It's mostly spiritual, and that's the beginning of the spiritual worlds. So, in a certain way, I think that it will be true to say that most of the spirituality of the world, the non-Jewish world, is all about the world of Asiyah. The perception that spiritual people in the world have, whatever like astrology and energy and all kinds of different things that Jews and non-Jews are dealing with, it's mostly within the world of Asiyah. It's not going out of that realm of the Asiyah. And that's also like an important point to make, that when we are learning about all of those things, we are learning about things that are so higher, so much higher than what most of the people that are speaking about spirituality will deal with. So you can say that all what they speak about spirituality in the world is really almost physical, according to that big perception of the world. So that's so for today we got few important points. What is Kabbalah? A little bit about the history of the Kabbalah, why we learn in Kabbalah, and we got the structure of the 5 worlds. What are the 5 worlds? Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiyah. So the Adam Kadmon is the highest of the highest, the line of light that Hashem brought into the creation, and in the bottom of the Asiyah is ourself. So now we just need to learn how to use the elevator, going up and down, and we'll be fine. Bezrat Hashem. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, amen ve'amen.
Amen, amen.